evening and welcome to Just the News. We have a lot of big headlines for you today that we'd like to work through, so let's get straight to it. Remember, this is your daily news bulletin where we give you all of the happenings of India and around the world without any shouting or any drama. So this is where we are. According to ANI today, the price of LPG gas cylinders has been increased again, this time by 25 rupees as of the 1st of September. Now, oil marketing companies had also increased the prices just last month on the 18th of August when the hike, remember, we reported of 25 rupees per cylinder. Now, with this hike, the price of the 14 kg cylinder, which is the one that you use to cook at home, is now 884 rupees and 50 paise in the city of Delhi. It's about the same price in Mumbai. In Kolkata, which is the highest, it is 911 rupees. In Chennai, it is 900 rupees and 50 paise. Remember, in November last year, the price of the cylinder was 594 rupees. Now it's close to 900 rupees in several cities. Now, a lot of the newspapers will still write non-subsidized and subsidized, but the truth is that there has been no subsidy on the cylinder in most of urban India for several months now, because the subsidy has been done away with by the government, which means everybody, rich and poor, are paying the same price, other than very small pockets where the subsidy is available in some parts of rural India. So effectively, you're paying at least 884 rupees for a gas cylinder, which is going to really pinch urban poor households, because that is really where it is used. And remember, cooking gas is only used to cook food for families. It's like the argument for diesel cars, that it can be used and it's used by the rich, so it's okay. There's no argument here, because it's specifically domestic gas cylinders are only used to cook food for families, and that's really going to hurt many lakhs of family budgets across the country. In the meantime, Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has confirmed that 32 children and 7 adults in the Firozabad city of Uttar Pradesh have died due to an unidentified disease. It turns out that the most common symptom they all reported was a viral fever. The Chief Minister has said that the cause of these deaths will be determined after an investigation conducted by a group of doctors from the King George Medical College of Lucknow. The Agra Divisional Commissioner told the Indian Express, and I quote, "There have been nearly 40 deaths in Firozabad in the last 1 week. Primary cause appears to be dengue, though other causes are still being ascertained as well. We've ramped up measures to provide platelets to all concerned hospitals and brought them from Agra as well. Inspections are being carried out by official teams," end quote. The commissioner said that viral fever was reported as the most common symptom. The chief minister, meanwhile, said on Monday, if there was any negligence involved in these deaths, responsibility will be fixed. The chief medical officer of Firozabad has now been transferred. In Assam, the death toll due to the flood has now risen to 3 people. One more resident has died on Tuesday, but more than 5,73,000 people have been displaced or adversely hit by the floods across 22 districts. The Nalbari district is now the worst hit, along with Darang and Lakhimpur in Assam. The State Disaster Management Authority has reported that crop on 39,831 hectares of land has been damaged. This is, of course, extremely painful for the farmers involved. Delhi has received more rainfall in the last 24 hours than it has in any September in the last 20 years. The IMD senior scientist R.K. Jenumani told ANI that there's heavy rainfall in Delhi that started yesterday. We have 2 or 3 spells, and it was around 11.2 centimeters of rain, especially at Safdarjung and Lodi Road area. In 19 years, this is the highest in any September. The IMD has issued an orange alert for our capital city. Several areas have been waterlogged, including Chanakyapuri and other parts of Delhi. Though schools opened in Delhi today, schools in the national capital have reopened with strict COVID rules for the first time in nearly 17 months. The new guidelines put in place to curb the spread of COVID include mandatory thermal screening, staggered lunch breaks, alternate seating arrangements, 50% seating per classroom, and mandatory isolation room on school premises. They also include an isolation room for students, but this is the first time students in Delhi are coming back to school after March 2020. This is really something to keep an eye on, and the government of Delhi apparently says that it's going to keep a close eye on any outbreaks that come up because of COVID. Moving on now to an update on our COVID numbers. Kerala has reported 32,803 new COVID cases and 173 deaths in the last 24 hours. It remains the worst hit state in the country. But the thing to note so far is that while Kerala's cases reported on a daily basis has fluctuated from about 20,000 cases to 30,000 cases, the number of fatalities has stayed in the 100, 150, 170 area, which is a good thing. It means that they've managed to take care of most of the people who have been infected. The Union Ministry said the state accounts for 72% of the total cases in the country. The data released as of this morning, 8 a.m., India reported 41,956 new coronavirus cases and 460 deaths. So, just to put this into perspective, out of 41,000 cases, 32,000 cases have come from Kerala. But out of a total of 460 deaths across the country, 173 deaths are in Kerala. Meanwhile, the government consortium of INSACOG, which is the research team that's working with the government, in its recent bulletin reported breakthrough COVID-19 infections in India within expected numbers, taking into account the total infections and other factors. But there is good news on the vaccine front. India has, as of Tuesday, administered 1.3 crore doses of the vaccine in 24 hours. That is a mammoth number. And if we manage to keep this number that high, we will be able to vaccinate a large portion of our population fairly soon. With this, the total number of vaccines that have been administered goes up to about, if I'm not mistaken, 65 crore across the country. ANI, quoting government sources, has reported that according to the center, there are no cases of the new C12 COVID variant in India so far. Now, this is a strain of coronavirus first reported in South Africa that has now mutated and has spread to 6 countries, according to the WHO. The WHO is also worried that this particular strain might be more infectious and it could also be vaccine resistant. We don't have any of it in India so far. The public health body of the United Nations this week said that it is monitoring C12 very closely. The World Health Organization is also monitoring a new COVID variant called the Mu. It's MU, which was first identified in Colombia in January. After being detected in Colombia, it has been reported in other South American countries and in Europe. It was scientifically first known as B1621, which is classified now as a variant of interest by the WHO. The WHO said the variant has mutations that indicate a risk of resistance to vaccines and stressed further studies are needed to better understand it. And on to an update from the world of business and economy. Remember, we already brought you the information about the increased LPG prices, but there's good news on the goods and services tax, or the GST front. The government has collected more than 1 lakh crore rupees in GST in the month of August. It came in at exactly 1.12 lakh crore rupees. Now, the government of India has a target for itself to collect at least 1 lakh crore rupees in GST per month. Now, this is what you need to know about this number as background. In the month of July, it was 1.16. In the month of August, it's 1.12. So it has come down a little bit. And that may be reason for concern. But the fact that we've stayed above 1 lakh crore rupees for 2 consecutive months means that the economy is starting to tick back and activity has begun again. But what we should know is that we first crossed this number of 1 lakh crore rupees GST collection in the month of October 2020 after the first wave. We were recovering from the first wave. We stayed above that number until May 2021, when the second wave hit us really badly, and we fell then below 1 lakh crore rupees per month. We have now recovered in July and August. So this is a good thing. We have to keep an eye that it stays consistent, but it means there is a recovery in economic activity. An update now from news coming in from across the world, specifically in Afghanistan. Now, there is a story you have to know about Afghanistan. It's the Panjshir province. Now, there are tribal leaders in the Panjshir province. These leaders and their people are right now forming the only resistance against the Taliban because they haven't allowed the Taliban to enter their space. and the battle for this province continues to rage on. Now, negotiations between the Taliban and the leaders of Panjshir have failed, according to AFP. They reported on Wednesday. Now, Mullah Amir Khan Muttaqi, the head of the Taliban's Commission for Guidance and Encouragement, reportedly said that negotiations with the tribal leaders and the elders of the Panjshir province have been in vain. Panjshir Valley is the center of the resistance right now against the Taliban after Kabul fell last month. There's a northern alliance of fighters in this province, and it's a coalition of ethnic Uzbek, Tajik forces that are concentrated in this valley, who have vowed to continue fighting the Taliban until the very end. Ahmad Massoud, who is the son of an anti-Soviet resistance hero, Ahmad Shah Massoud, is leading the anti-Taliban coalition fight in Panjshir province. According to Reuters, in a recorded speech addressed to the Afghans in Panjshir, senior Taliban leader Amir Khan Muttaqi called on the rebels to throw down their weapons. He basically blamed the leaders for failing the negotiations and said there are some people who don't want problems to be solved peacefully. It's now up to you to talk to them. Those who want to fight, tell them this is enough. This was the message the Taliban put out to the people of Panjshir. Reports suggest the Taliban fighters attacked the valley on two fronts and surrounded it completely after the US soldiers boarded their last flight out of Afghanistan. Fahmi Dashi, who is an official of the National Resistance Front comprising of anti-Taliban militia fighters, has said that by the grace of God, luck was not on their side and they did not succeed in taking this particular valley. So that fight continues to rage on. In the meantime, the US President Joe Biden has justified again his decision to pull all troops out of Afghanistan about 24 hours after he managed to do that. He said staying was no longer an option. He praised the troops for organizing an airlift of more than 120,000 people wishing to flee the Taliban regime. Mr. Biden said, and I quote, "I am not going to extend this forever war. I was not going to extend this forever exit. The war in Afghanistan is over now." Must be noted, though, it might be over for the Americans. It is not over for the people of Afghanistan. According to CNN, the Taliban today showed off dozens of American-made armored vehicles along with newly seized weapons at victory celebrations in the city of Kandahar in Afghanistan. Videos posted on social Taliban parading hardware left behind both by Afghan and US forces after their withdrawal. CNN also reported that in one video, militants dressed in US-style uniforms, holding US-made weapons, examined a C-9 helicopter parked inside a hangar. In response to this, Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby told CNN, and I quote, "They can look at it, they can walk around it, but they can't fly them because they can't operate them," end quote. In the meantime, a senior board member of Afghanistan's central bank urged the US Treasury and the International Monetary Fund to give the Taliban at least some access or limited access to the country's monetary reserves or risk economic disaster. Now, this is a report by Reuters. Remember, the Taliban took over Afghanistan, but it's unlikely that the militants will get quick access to what is roughly about $10 billion in assets held by the Afghanistan Bank, or the DAB, which is mostly outside of the country. According to CNN, and this is worrying really on the environmental front, according to CNN, an oil spill that originated in Syria's largest refinery is growing and spreading across the Mediterranean Sea and will soon reach the island of Cyprus. Now, Syrian officials had confirmed this leak. They said that a tank that had 15,000 tons of fuel had been leaking since the 23rd of August, but they said they managed to bring it under control. Although now satellite imagery shows that the oil leak or spill was much worse than originally thought. This is the second major oil spill in the Eastern Mediterranean this year alone. Updates from the Tokyo Paralympics. Not as much good news today. Indian swimmer Suyash Jadhav was disqualified from the men's 100-meter breaststroke SB7 final of the Tokyo Paralympics because of a rule violation. He was disqualified because he apparently did not comply with the rule number 1141, which says that he is allowed after each turn a single butterfly kick, but he apparently made more than one butterfly kick at that turn. A 27-year-old Jadhav had both of his hands amputated below the elbow at the age of 11 due to electrocution. He represents India at the Paralympics. And a piece of positive news before we leave you for today, as always. Indore, which is Madhya Pradesh's most populous district, has managed to vaccinate its entire target adult population with at least one dose of the vaccine as of Tuesday this week, which means 28 lakh 8,000 people were vaccinated. This also comes after Indore city itself had vaccinated 100% of its adult population with at least one dose. So that's a total of 18.82 lakh doses altogether. So that brings us to the end of the news tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, this is a free service that we provide to you because we want to be able to educate young people across the country with the news without any sort of adulteration of this side or that side or any bias in it. But in return, there was something that I would like for you to do. Inform friends and family that there is such a bulletin and they can access it as well. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this video with people you think might find the news useful. Thank you for watching. Good night.